Hi, my name is David Johnston, and I am a bodybuilder. What is bodybuilding? Good question. It would be a certain style of training aimed specifically at maximal hypertrophy, meaning making your skeletal muscles as big as possible, within the context of trying to retain a certain symmetry so that all of your major muscle groups are within balance and harmonious with one another. And of course, in conjunction with training that way comes eating a certain way, supplementing a certain way, trying to recover appropriately, basically turning your body into a living sculpture. I started in September of 2003, so we're coming up on just about 12 years now. I'll never forget the night my first Speedo arrived in the mail and putting it on in front of my girlfriend and just realizing how small that thing really is. I grew up in the early 80s watching Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone, He-Man, Hulk Hogan, all these cultural icons where muscularity was really prized and respected. And I always kind of wanted to be that way, but I always kind of knew that was my destiny, so to speak. I always had a really big personality, and I always just kind of knew that in time I would build the body to match. I felt like my body didn't fit who I really was. It really suited my personality. There was a certain aggressiveness to it where it was about whatever tension you had to get out of your system, you could go down in the basement, put your music on, and whereas in most of life, you get in trouble for being overly aggressive or letting your energy out, so to speak, here you actually got rewarded for it with a positive return on your investment. Back then, the thought had never really crossed my mind. I knew that I wanted to look like a bodybuilder. I wanted to live like a bodybuilder, but I didn't really care so much about competing like a bodybuilder. For me, it was more about the body that I lived in, and I say this to this day. The competition is fun, but it's an afterthought. I like going to the mall and being the big guy. I like going to the pool and being the big guy. I don't necessarily need to get that gratification on stage, per se, although it's a nice little perk at the end of a journey. And I have to tell people, I really didn't enjoy competing my first couple seasons. I loved the process of getting ready for a show because it was about me comparing myself to myself. And every week I could see that I was getting better. I was in better shape than I'd ever been. I was leaner than I'd ever been. I had more detail to my physique, better symmetry. But then the day of the show, it's no longer about comparing yourself to yourself. It's about comparing yourself to everybody else. So that can be a little daunting because you've invested months and months and months of blood, sweat, and tears to get up there and essentially get judged by some people in about 30 seconds. If you would have told me when I started that 7 years later I'd be winning the super heavyweight class at the Maryland State, I would have laughed in your face. There's no way I could have fathomed that. When I started doing this and seeing results, every day I could see these minor little changes in my physique. And what it does is it adds meaning, it adds purpose to your life. Because every minute of every day is scheduled to get your meals in, to get your training in. And it's funny when it's over, there's this great tension that's lifted off of you, but you miss it because all of a sudden you wake up and that purpose isn't quite as strong. I never wanted a bodybuilder to have a physique that was attainable. To me, it's something that should not be attainable. It should be something that inspires me, and if I even get within a fraction of that, I can die happy. I want the peak bodybuilders, they should be gods amongst men. They should be physically developed to a point where you're seeing a statue moving through space.